Welcome back to the Humble Market Timer YouTube channel. If you enjoy the content, please like, comment, and subscribe. Now today's video will be a quick video on ticker symbol COIN Coinbase. When will the meteoric rise finally come to an end? Before we get started, let me show you my disclaimer. Again, these are my ideas, not investment advice. All right. Today, Coinbase made a huge move. It went up about 20% today, and all because of the news was announced that Coinbase would be added to the S&P 500. Now, the reason why that's such big news and why the stock made such a huge move was because when a stock is added to the S&P 500, it causes forced buy-ins by ETFs and other funds who have to buy the stock. So when you have forced buying, the price is going to rise. And even though the stock won't be included until May 19th, retail and other investors tend to get ahead of the forced buy-in and start buying up the stock immediately once the announcement is made that is joining the S&P 500. So that was the reason for the huge pop. And just to kind of give you some perspective on how stocks move when they've announced that they've been included in the S&P 500, here's a quick look at Palantir. About 6 months ago, 6 to 8 months ago, they announced on September 6th, 2024, that they would be included with an inclusion date on September 23rd. And I highlighted here the movement in which the announcement was made and how the stock gapped huge on the announcement and how it pretty much went up every day until the date of the inclusion in the S&P 500. And that came to be about 27%. It consolidated for a little while longer and then went even higher. But just during the time frame in which they had announced that it would be added and then the actual inclusion date, the stock rose approximately 27%. Now, just imagine Palantir has over 2 billion shares outstanding. So it's a thick stock. It takes a lot of buying to move it. Coinbase has a tenth of that share structure. They have a little over 200 million shares. Palantir has 2 billion. Coinbase has 200 million, a little over 200 million. So the movement in Coinbase on such a news like it being added to the S&P 500 is going to cause a huge, drastic move higher. So I wanted to show you the move here. As you can see in the chart, it gapped above the previous day or the previous trading day, and the stock went up about 20%. But I want you to make note of the technical formation of Coinbase's chart just before the big move. You see you have here a neckline, and then you have shoulder, head, and another shoulder. And that is a textbook inverse head and shoulder chart formation. And to establish what your target price would be when you have that inverse head and shoulder formation, you take the neckline and you stretch it down to the deepest part of the head. And then you take that line, and wherever it broke, that is where you position the line, and it gives you a target price of approximately $280. So just by looking at inverse head and shoulders and what your typical target price is once you have a break, and right here you had a very strong break of the inverse head and shoulder, you can see that the target price is in that 280 range. I believe the price could go as high as 300, maybe 305, but a typical safe target price would be, again, that distance that you have from the neckline to the deepest part of the head in that inverse head and shoulders. So be on the lookout for a potential continued pop in Coinbase to that $208 a share. Be looking for that. And then potentially an even stronger move after it's pulled back somewhat or had a certain amount of consolidation for a potential move higher. You can see in the RSI, it's starting to get stretched out, but when you have big news such as joining the S&P 500, the range in the RSI can get extended pretty high. And right now it's in that 74 area on the daily RSI. But this kind of news can typically push stocks all the way up into the 90s. So be on the lookout for that. And again, I believe your target price will be in that 280, but potentially all the way to 300. Hope you liked the video. Once again, if you like the content, please like, comment, and subscribe. Hope you have a good day. See you next video.